What is up, people? What is going on? It is Keenan. Welcome to The Word. Uh-oh, I messed that up. Didn't do it, so I tried to do my left hand. The Word, episode 13. How is everyone doing, peeps? How you doing, Kiki B?
Oh, I'm pumped. I've been following Miss Andrea Waltz on Periscope, so I feel like I know her. I'm really excited for this conversation.
Oh, so you just jumped in. We haven't even introduced the show, and you already dropped the guest.
The title. It's
out of context. People are like, what is she talking about? What's going on? So yes, we will jump right to our guest. Our guest today is for episode 13 on the 13th. It's almost kind of scary. I thought we were going to play like Friday the 13th music coming in, but is Andrea Waltz. She is the author or co-author of Go for Noes, the killer book. I'm excited to talk to you guys about it. So that's why Kiki is so excited. But we got some house cleaning stuff to do. So The Word, people, thanks for joining. Those of you who are not already leveraging The Word on podcast, if you can't come to the show, Kiki, can they now watch it on podcast?
You
or
sure
listen to it on podcast?
So,
I gotta hold my lip.
So what you want to do is you will go to, if you even Google a sales guy, The Word, you will go to our Word page, and right there on the right-hand side now there is a link just to get onto the subscriber list for iTunes and listen to that in your car, in the grocery store, wherever you be.
Wherever you be. I think you can also go, if you go to iTunes and you search under podcasts, I think you can find it under a sales guy. So it's easy to find. Go a sales guy. You won't find it under my name, which you probably need to fix somehow, but you can find it under a sales guy. They are all there, so please listen. For those of you who are new, I'd like to think at 13, we're getting more and more new people. The Word is about providing you dope, real, tight, super badass sales content, personal development content, growth content, leadership content that helps you crush it as a salesperson, that helps you grow your sales career and be better than the next guy or gal. But we do it in a fun, exciting, and funny way instead of the boring old beat-down corporate stuff that we see out there. I will not mention any names, but there's a lot of that corporate BS. So we figure if you're going to have to learn, if you want to be badass, you might as well have fun doing it and have a good time and do it at Red Bull speed. Red Bull speed. So, right. So, Keek, how you doing?
I'm fantastic. I know you've got to be a little tired with all the travel you've been doing, but yeah, we'll help you keep the energy up.
I am feeling a little tired. I need to recharge. I have been going. I was just telling someone I just finished a 24-hour day yesterday or 2 days ago, and in the last 40 before last night, I had 4 hours sleep in 41 hours or something like that. So, yes, I'd like to be like Tesla, get my shit plugged in right now.
That's what your goal is for, right?
Right, exactly. But it's all good. I'm excited to be The Word. The Word charges me up. The Word is a lot of fun. I get excited. I get cranked. So you love Andrea, do you not? You watch her Periscope. Tell me, why do you like her so much?
So I was interested in her. I was reading her book, saw her podcast, or heard her podcast on the Art of Charm. Really relatable. I think even if people aren't willing to admit it, we all have a fear of rejection, especially in sales. We come head-to-head with it every single day. So I just thought it was, as far as like why I like her Periscope, it's kind of a different side. You know, she's waking up in the morning, she's having her coffee, you have a personal conversation with her. It's a really cool way to communicate with people these days.
She's having her coffee. Is it Starbucks?
I think it might be a home brew. I don't know. It's normally in not in a paper cup.
Oh, she's from her crib. She's at home. All right, home brew. All right, I'm feeling you. Is she putting on her makeup and stuff too?
No. That's what I do.
I know. I'm waiting for someone to get real. I'm waiting for someone on Periscope to get real. Like, as they're talking, putting on their makeup, or doing their hair, or, okay, I'd even go down for being in the shower, right? I mean, I'm waiting for someone to get serious and real on Periscope and Meerkat. Everybody's always trying to put up their best, put on their best airs.
Exactly. I do have to give her props because she was going on this, I don't know, like a binge, I guess, a Periscope binge, and she said, you know, I promised I was going to be here. I wish I could do my hair, but I didn't have time, so here it is.
Oh, there you go. All right.
Yeah.
All right. I like it. She's keeping it real. She's keeping it real. That's good. All right. So, guys, Sales Jolt is the hashtag. All right. So, ask questions. Tell us what you think. Challenge our BS. But participate. This is as much as Twitter chat as it is a freestyle with me, Kiki, and our guests. So jump in, play. Kiki will monitor. We have other folks on our team monitoring, so we'll get your questions in. We'll respond to them. But Sales Jolt is the hashtag. Let's jump in. Let's make it happen. We want to hear what you guys have to say. Of course, this is recorded. It'll be dropped on YouTube when it's done. So if you're not already subscribed to The Word, you're crazy. Because if you can't make it, at least you'll get a notification. Boom, right into your email inbox. So then you're like, oh, I missed the word. What have I done? It's like orange juice in the morning. You need to get your word fixed every 2 weeks. And if you think you're going to be a good salesperson, then you better get your word fixing. So Sales Jolt it is. Am I missing anything, Keek?
You got it.
I got it all.
You got it all.
I can't believe it. All right. All right. I got to pick it up. I'm feeling a little slow today. But I am excited. I am. Jumping jacks? Do a little jumping jacks? Oof, get the blood flowing. All right, get it going. I haven't done one of those since like middle school. Football. Since football. All right, here we go. That was for Romeo. Romeo is one of our recruiters. He used to play for the Redskins and for the Browns under Belichick, and then he also played for the Ducks. So, yeah, he's my boy. I love Romeo. Big dude, 6'3", 300. So I can't be knocking him around. If he doesn't do what I tell him to do, I just say, okay. All right, so what is our visual today? For those of you who don't know, we do a visual every show to talk about, to critique, to have fun with. What's our visual today, Kiki?
So today's visual is actually in line with the show. It was inspired by Andrea's book.
Yeah. Lost you, Keek.
Down by the Decca recording company who said, we don't like their sound and guitar music is on the way out. A failed soldier, farmer, and real estate agent. At 38 years old, he went to work for his father as a handyman. Cut from the high school basketball team, he went home, locked himself in his room, and cried. A teacher told him he was too stupid to learn anything, and he should go into a field where he might succeed by virtue of his pleasant personality. Fired from a newspaper because he lacked imagination and had no original ideas. His fiancée died. He failed in business twice. He had a nervous breakdown, and he was defeated in 8 elections. If you've never failed, you've never lived.
So the person with the technical difficulty was Lucille Ball, was told that she did not have stage presence.
Interesting. Interesting. And you know how many more people we can add to this list? We can add Oprah Winfrey, right? They said she wasn't attractive enough and was too emotional for the news, and they kicked her off the news, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's Albert Einstein. When they said you're too stupid, I was waiting for that one. They said Albert Einstein, who didn't talk until he was 2. They said he wasn't bright enough, right? So I think the list goes on and on. I love these from motivational perspective, but sometimes I find myself, especially in today's social media world, I find myself giving them less and less credence because most people don't take action on them. They just make them feel good for 5 fucking seconds about themselves or where they are, and then they go back to doing what they were always doing. Right? I mean, and I think that's the downside. I don't know that these had lots of inspirational value for people back in the day. I mean, do you remember I don't know if you're too young or not, Kiki, but do you remember the posters that they used to have that have a picture and then it would have some saying or something under it? What were they called? Success cards or successory or something like. If you had a picture of a boat right? And there was some saying under the boat, and it'd always be in a black frame around the picture. What were those called?
Oh, I don't remember what they're called, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, in the 90s, they were all over everybody's offices. You'd buy little cards, and you'd send them to people, and they'd have all these things. Those things were huge. And now we have social media, so all the memes are digital. But I really wonder how many people actually embrace the messages, actually like take the messages and apply them and create improvement in their lives. That's what I think is interesting. And I don't know that many people do. And that's why I'm sort of excited. Actually, sort of excited. Well, I'm very excited because I sort of believe that maybe today's show might inspire some people to do something different. Might inspire some people to actually take action because Andrea's book, Go for No, and the things in it actually can make a difference if you're willing to build the Teflon, if you're willing to build the leather to withstand the no's, if you can change the way you feel when someone says no and change your habits, it actually may work, and it'll do more than just these little memes that are supposed to make you feel good and share with another person. So it's probably a good segue then to our guest. You want to introduce her, Kiki? You love her so much. You bring her on.
Yes. Well, we have the lovely and intelligent Andrea Waltz. She is joining us from Florida. Just kind of the story of Go for No, I feel like it's pervasive throughout her life. Even her marriage, she'll tell you all the stories, but I just think that she is an inspiration for people. The science behind, 8 to 10 no's to get that yes, but really she digs a little bit deeper into the internal reasons why you are better off overcoming that fear of failure. And
keep losing your sister.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Yeah, we can now. There you go. Go, Andrea. Go, Kiki. We can hear you now.
Okay, so Andrea, take it away. I'd like to hear 1 minute on you if you are not on mute. Oh, we can't hear you.
You're on mute, sister. There you go.
Here we go.
Oh, now she's back on mute.
Oh, now you're back.
It.
No. Let's see.
Okay, here we go.
No, girl. Yeah.
And we had the technical meeting and everything. This is why I say fail your way to success. Fail your way to success. Be willing to embrace the failures, and when they happen, pick right up and move on. And Keenan, you're hysterical. You're so right. Those memes about success and failure, those memes were called successories. I remember them very well. And it's all great to talk about failure and to bring and to tell the stories of the great people who failed. But I think most people, what they do is they say, okay, well that's okay with this person, but I've got a family to feed, I've got rent to pay or whatever, and I don't have the luxury of making those mistakes. We really don't have the luxury to not make those mistakes because it is in those failures and it is in those no's that you find the opportunities. The truth is the movers and shakers do not sit in their offices or sit at home and not make phone calls and not take risks and not take chances. They take chances, they hear no more than most people, and the irony is then the more no's that they hear, the better they get, and then they don't hear as many no's. But it takes a lot of that perseverance to be willing to push through. And really what it comes down to, you guys, is not being so worried about what other people think of you, not being so worried about that judgment. And you think, hey, if I'm selling a widget, who cares? Is there still judgment? Absolutely, there's still judgment. There's a fear of what people think about you that holds people back.
I'm back.
Yay.
I'm glad to know you guys didn't drop off. I got an error 32 message. I don't know what the heck that means, but it just went poof. I disappeared. So, all right. So I'm glad you guys kept it rolling. Well done. So, Andrea, thank you for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
I'm very excited, very excited. So I heard the last part of what you just said, right? And you said, oh, it's just getting comfortable with no. Seriously, come on, Andrea. That's like someone saying, hey, boxing, it's just about getting comfortable getting punched in the face.
Right.
You got to do better than that, right? You've got to do better than that.
Well, Keenan, what happens is that when we are young and somewhere along the line, our super persistence, our willingness to fail gets drummed out of us, and we become protective of our reputation, we become protective of what other people think of us, and we have this idea that there's only one way, and that way is to hear yes, that way is to be successful in front of other people. And so people do everything within their power to avoid failure, and they think that's the right path. Ironically, when you avoid failure, when you avoid hearing no, you reduce your opportunities for yes. And that's where the problem comes in, because it's a self-fulfilling cycle. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, really, is you avoid hearing no, and then you say, well, gosh, I really don't want to hear no now. I really need a yes. And you get stressed and you get pressured and you battle to get those yeses. And now you become one of those sleazy salespeople that nobody likes, right? And so here you are, and still trying to avoid no, trying to go for yes, and it's this self-perpetuating cycle. The reality is when you go for no, you reduce all of that salesperson sleaziness because you're more willing to take a chance and more willing to hear a no.
So it's not the idea that you're going for the no, it's you're getting comfortable going for the no, right?
Exactly.
So, all right, so then let's go back to the trigger point, right? How does someone get comfortable with the no? How do they do that?
Right. Well, the first thing that we say is look at where you are now. Create a no awareness. Because, see, there's two worlds, you guys. There's the go for yes world and the go for no world. In the go for yes world, let's say you go to a networking meeting, right? You go to a networking meeting and you get 10 business cards in this go for yes world. And what you do is you go home and you say, I could call all 10 of these people. But in a go for yes world, you say, 5 of them are going to tell me no, 3 are going to tell me maybe, I think I'll get 2 yeses. So what do? You call the 2 yeses and you leave the rest in the desk, or you throw the business cards away. In the go for no world, you say, you know what, I don't know who's going to be the right conversation. Everybody needs to hear about my service. Everybody deserves to hear about my product. I'm going to call all 10 of these people without making a judgment, and I'm going to see what happens. And when you do that, the opportunities just skyrocket because you've stopped that prejudging. So what you have to do in the beginning, and it's a great question, is you've got to stop making assumptions of what people are going to decide, do, or spend. That has to go out the window.
So why do people make those assumptions? We make them. I agree with you. I'm in your camp, but I'm going to keep pushing on you. Why do we make those assumptions?
I knew you would. I knew you would. It's good. I'm ready to battle. I think we make the assumptions because it takes us off the hook. It's a protective mechanism. Because no's don't feel good and the rejection doesn't feel good, we look at all the opportunities and we say, okay, I'm only going to go for the sure thing. It's like the guy saying, I'm only going to go ask the girl who's looked at me and given me the eyes for a couple minutes. I'll ask her on a date, but I won't ask anyone else because nobody else looked at me, right? It's all that prejudging.
I was waiting until we got to the dating because that's all I kept thinking about. That's all I kept thinking about is that one guy that's in the bar. He's like 5'7". He's not that attractive. He's not ugly, but he's not that attractive. And he's always with some girl by the end of the night because he just keeps walking up to every single one, and he doesn't care that they blow him off. And we all have friends who are like that, and we're like, how did he get her? And it's because he asked 1,000 chicks before he got to her, before she said yes. So I'm feeling you. I am feeling you. But okay, so I think we're downplaying though, and there's the psychological component, right? You said it doesn't feel good. Well, I want people, because I can see this already, right? I want people to be able to tap into that internal element that is making them feel bad. I don't want to get all psychobabble, but I think we have to, because I think there's a psychological component here that prevents people from crossing the chasm. What is it?
Yes. Well, I'm going to make it as quick and dirty as I can. one of the things that I've been reading, which goes hand in hand with Go for No, it's a very interesting book called Mindset by Carol Dweck. And one of the things she talks about is, she talks about children, and she talks about that all people, and it starts in childhood, have two kinds of mindsets. One's a fixed mindset, one's a growth mindset. So the fixed mindset kids think that it's pretty much you're as talented as you're going to be, and life is kind of almost laid out for you. The growth mindset kids think that I can learn and grow and I can fail, but I can practice and I can get better. And so what happens is I think we adopt these attitudes, and so the feelings that we interpret when we get a no, if we're in that fixed mindset, what that no means is I'm going to get another one of these and another one of these, and I'm going to be living under the freeway overpass. Like, we catastrophize it to where all of a sudden it's this horrible thing, rather than looking at it from a growth mindset of, okay, I'm going to get a no, I'm going to get a no, I'm going to figure this thing out, I need to change my approach, I need to try some different things, and I'm going to get to where I want to be. That's the growth mindset. And there's a lot of people out there, and there's a ton of reasons why this happens. We don't need to go into all that, but there's a ton of people out there who have that fixed mindset that they have to reprogram by just taking the action, which is to go out and start failing more. That's the only solution I have to it. There's, I mean, you can get therapy too if you want. you can go out and do that. But if you go out and just increase your failure rate and start practicing these skills, then I've seen so many people turn the corner just by taking the action.
So Dweck, I believe Dweck is also the author of the study Mastery Orientation versus Goal Orientation, correct?
I believe so, yeah. Amazing stuff. Yes. I mean, it's fascinating, yeah.
Yes. Very fascinating stuff. So, all right, so if we're going to talk about authors of studies, let's move into the idea of self-awareness, right? And let's talk about the idea that someone's perception of self. So fingers crossed, we've got a verbal for a guest coming up in September, and his name is David Dunning, and he is the co-author of the Dunning-Kruger effect, which basically says most people think they're better than they really are, and the people who aren't very good think they're better than they are, and the people who are really, really good don't think they're as good as they are. And I've actually crossed that chasm, and I'll share that story in a minute, that really helped it highlight for me this idea of being good, perception of good or not. But in Dunning-Kruger's argument, they argue that people who aren't really good at something think they're much better than they really, really are. So how does my feeling is no plays a role into that, right? If I think I'm really good, but I'm not that good, there's a perception that I'm afraid of maybe subconsciously popping or reminding myself, having to come to grips with that I'm not good, so as long as I don't get to know I can maintain this bullshit story about myself. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. It's interesting, and I can't wait for that guest. I will be on, I will be watching, I want to read all about this because I think it's fascinating, and I think you're right, and I think, listen, a lot of this has to do with fear of failure, and some of it has to do with fear of success. No's can certainly sabotage you, right? I mean, you can use your fear of failure and rejection to sabotage yourself and to not go after those big no's. One of the things that we talk about in Go for No is, hey, if you're not hearing no at all, you're playing it way too safe. A lot of salespeople, for example, kind of to dovetail on what you just said, think they're fabulous salespeople, but they're pretty much order takers, and they play it safe, and they don't go out there and get big no's. They don't chase the big deals. They stay in their safe box. The salespeople who might not be as good will go out there and get those big no's, and then they learn from those big no's, and they learn from those failures, and that's where they can make a huge difference. So it's very interesting.
I'm writing this down because as I'm hearing you, I'm sure there's some studies out there, but I'm going to blog about this. Failure is the boundaries of your competence.
I love it.
I just came up with that, okay? So unless I subconsciously read it in your book, I just came up with that, right? Failure is the boundaries of your competency. So if you refuse to fail, then your competency, you don't know where your competency is, right? Yes. So in order to get better, you have to push until you fail, like, oh, this is where I'm not competent anymore, and then I have to go further. So if we buy into that premise, then could we go back to the idea that the reason people don't like to fail is because they don't want to be told or don't want to come to terms with the fact they're not that good? And using your one about the guy talking to the girl, girls or guys like you walk up to someone and start talking, they say no. We internalize that as, I'm not good looking enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not what I thought it was, and I don't want that feeling, or I don't want to be told that I'm not good enough.
Right.
Fair?
Yes, totally fair. And that comes back to also internalizing it, like you said. So simultaneously, it's working on not taking it personally. I've done in my business, worked really hard to respect other people's choices and to respect other people's telling me no. Listen, I'm Mark at Go for No speaking. I get shocked every time I get turned down. Why wouldn't someone want to hire us? I mean, this is the greatest concept ever. You seriously are not bringing us into the conference? Seriously, tell me that you're just joking, right? And I've learned that, you know what? I have to respect their choice. I have to respect their needs for their business and their whatever they've got going on. And actually, taking it off of me frees me up so much, because I just say, you know what? They've got other things, Andrea. You know, this is not about your hair. This is not about your speaking ability. This is about what they need. And quite frankly, even if it is about my hair, who cares? I need to move on. I don't have time to sit there and personalize it, right? But I think a lot of people do, is they really internalize it, and then again they catastrophize it. Like, this is the end. This one no or these couple no's mean that I am not good. And that's the thinking that really has to get changed.
Yeah, I think that is the kernel to your approach here. Because until individuals can learn to not internalize it and not believe it's a reflection of their capabilities, a reflection of their person, a reflection of anything that has to do with them, they won't be able to cross the chasm. They will not be able to switch. Because if you internalize it, I don't care who you are, if you internalize it, becomes too difficult, right? It becomes too much weight to carry. Every no becomes a shit out of our self-confidence. Every no becomes a weight on our self-esteem, right? And so if you're allowing it, too many no's and you're buried. See, I'm gone. Right? So I think, would you agree that has to be the first step? You have to get to that place, or you can't execute on what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. And I kind of want to go back just for a second on the thing that you alluded to. You said about your definition of failure. Failure
represents the boundaries of our competencies.
Exactly, the boundaries of our competencies. And I like that, because what's interesting is we do these 30-day challenges. I've done 30-day Go for No challenges, 7-day Go for No challenges, and I've had people report back like what happened during that time period. My favorite was this lady said, it wasn't until I was finally having a lot of conversations with people where I saw where my gaps were. I mean, you could sit back all day and think, well, I really don't know how good I am. I don't know if I have a problem with objections. I don't know if I have a problem with prospecting. I don't know if I have a problem with closing, until you actually go out there and do enough of it, and then you see where your gaps are, and then you can improve. Most of us, especially if you're in a fixed mindset, you sit back and go like, I need to better my sales. Well, why don't you go out there and get more activity, and we can figure out where your gaps are.
So I have a question.
Yes, I love it.
Do you mind if I jump in here, Keenan?
No, go.
I know.
So I mean, your book's been out for 9 years now. I'm sure you've talked to 1 million people, probably a lot more than that. Wanted to know if you found that there are like a gender bias maybe of people admitting that this is failure and that they're scared of it.
You know what's interesting, Kiki, is I used to think that Go for No was a female problem. I really did, and I guess because I was a people pleaser, and I wanted you to like me, and if you told me no, then that means you didn't like me, and I've got all these issues, right? I've heard from more men, and maybe it's just because the men are writing us for some reason or coming up to us. I am shocked at the number of men who say, oh, I'm scared, I hate to fail, I hate hearing no, you guys have tapped into something. And so as the years have progressed, I've actually switched in my head. I hate to say it, it feels 50-50 to me now. I think the guys have as many issues around this issue as girls.
Interesting.
Well, if you had asked me when you started this, I could have helped you out.
Yeah?
Man, in the idea of masculinity, failure's not okay. right? I mean, how men are brought up, strong men win. Well, what's the opposite of winning? Losing. Losing is failure. Men who lose are failures. You lose the fight, you're a wimp. You lose the game, you're not athletic. You lose the girl, I mean, it's a zero-sum world for men as they're brought up. It's all about winning and losing. It's all about success or failure. You're the guy with the nice car and the nice watch, and you're the success. You're the guy who's driving for UPS. You're the loser. Oh, I'm not surprised at all.
Interesting.
Women, on the other time, can fail.
Yes, this information would have been helpful 5 or 6 years ago, but thank you for sharing it.
I'm here for you.
Yes, you are. I love it. I mean, you're right, and I guess really, I have been coming at it from the feminine perspective, which is women. So that's a great perspective, Keenan, that you brought up about men and masculinity. For women, I think it's much more of a I don't want to look aggressive. I was taught to play nice. I was taught to, I'm not going to march in somewhere and go like, hey, I need to know if you're in this deal and you can throw me out of your office. I remember talking to or reading something by Jeb Blount of Sales Gravy, and he was like, yeah, I've been thrown out of offices. I've been hung up on more times than I can count, and I just call back the next day. I don't think women are trained that way. I think a lot of women are like, oh my God, I just got hung up on. He hates me or she hates me. I'm never calling them back, right? So Keenan, I think the guys have a little edge in that some of them are willing to kind of be like, screw him, I'm calling him back. I'm going back in. Women, I don't think are that way.
So no, I think there are tremendous social dynamics playing into this. I think the women's social dynamics come in the execution of what you're suggesting, in the fact that going for no is harder. But on the flip side, for men, the hurdle is if I protect this world, right, and I just can convince myself I'm good, I don't want to push the limits because if I fail, I look bad, right? So I think that's the feedback you're getting from men, is this idea of pushing outside of the world. Like your book, like the first Edward, right? Edward? Is that Edward, right, in the book?
Eric, yeah.
Eric. Like the first Eric, right? He didn't want to push. The second Eric was all about pushing. So, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So with that, then I want to get into some of the specifics of the book. And people, if you have, you've got to go read this book. It's not what I expected. I did not expect a parable. Could we call it a parable? No?
Good, yes. Yes.
Okay, so we'll call it a parable. Andrea and her co-author do a fantastic job of telling this story through a story. So it's not like your typical Malcolm Gladwell book or your typical sales book that just throws out stats and walks you through a journey. They actually create characters and interaction, narrative, dialogue, and as they do it, they tell the concepts of this go for no strategy. And so you guys, if you haven't got the book, you've never heard of the book, go get it. It is an easy read. You can crank it out in a day, but what you get for that day, the return on that hour-and-a-half investment is through the roof. So go get it. The general premise is, as we've been talking here, once you can deal with your own personal issues about accepting no and not internalizing them and not making it about you, then executing against this idea of no. And one of the things I want you to talk to me about is the not yet versus never. Right? I thought this was great. So people, get it, get your shit straight internally, because you won't be able to execute this. Get comfortable with the no. Realize it's not about you. Get some strength of character. But once you do, the rest of this conversation will be about how you can execute your stuff. So, Andrea, not yet versus never. Talk to us.
Right. So not yet versus so most people think no means never. What no means really not yet. And I mean, I was actually listening to one of your shows with Dan Waldenschmidt. Waldenschmidt? I can never pronounce his last name.
Yes,
yeah,
that's okay.
And,
yes.
Yeah, great show. And you guys were talking about, some statistics and stuff, and these statistics are out there. I mean, the number of times that you have to follow up with a contact in order to close a deal. Some of the research that we talk about, 44% of all customers say no at least one time. 22% more, will say no again. 14% more, 12% more, and yet, when you add all those numbers up, when you add up, and I have them written down here, 92% of customers will say no, but the salespeople, what they do is they give up. 44% of them give up after the first no. Most customers, you have to follow up with 5 times or more. And so there's this dynamic, yes, right, of there's this huge gap.
Yes. No, you nailed it. I remember that part of the book stuck out. 92% of people say no in the first 5 calls,
Right.
and everybody quits before. But then after that, the yeses start coming, but they quit. They quit by that 5th call, so they don't get there. It's like
Exactly.
I've seen a meme where someone's digging a mine, and this guy stops and he says, "I'm done," and he's one pick strike away from all the diamonds in the mine.
It is, and unfortunately, I think, again, most people are not looking at the long term. They see, and this also goes, I think, a little bit to salespeople thinking that sales is something you do to somebody, that you're badgering, that you're manipulating. Listen, I mean, if this person has a need for what you have, you've got to stay persistent, knowing that at some point they're going to make a decision. The question is, are they going to go with you or not? Because eventually they're going to go with somebody. And so the question is, are you going to be there? Have you built that relationship? Have you stayed in touch with them? And so one of the things that we talk about, and we don't really even get into it in the book as much, is having that understanding of what sales is. Sales is not a 4-letter word. You're not, this is not something that you're doing to somebody, as opposed to doing it for them.
So using it, we just talked about mining. In the book, you talk about mining is like sales, and I thought it was a phenomenal metaphor. I guess I used the word like, so it'd be a simile. But with that said, walk us through why mining is like sales, or sales is like mining.
Yeah.
Mining gold. Do you remember that part?
Yeah. Vaguely. No. Well, fundamentally, I mean, you're sifting through all of the no's, and this has to do really with disqualifying. I mean, disqualifying people and respecting their time by figuring out who wants what you have, who needs what you have. And just like a good miner, you're sifting for gold. You're working through all of the no's to get to the final yes, the yes answers. And a lot of times you have to sift through a lot of gold, or dirt, as it were, to get to that gold, right?
Yes.
You have to sift through a ton of dirt.
Yes.
To get to
what you guys said, which I thought was so powerful, is you said when you mine for gold, you're not mining for gold. You're removing the dirt.
Removing the dirt, exactly.
Yes, and I thought that was I thought it was a fantastic example. The idea that he who removes the most dirt will get the most gold.
Exactly.
Right? You can't just
Exactly.
straight for the gold. Or you can find the gold. It takes the least amount of dirt to remove, but you're never going to get that much gold. And I think that was the power of the metaphor is you can get some gold without removing much dirt, but you're not going to get a lot of gold. You want to get a lot of gold, you got to remove a lot of dirt. You want to get a lot of sales, you got to get a lot of no's. And so therefore the premise of your book is let us teach you how to get a lot of no's. Because you get a lot of no's, you get a lot of sales. A few no's, you're going to get sales, and your ratio may be better, but you're not going to get a lot of sales.
Exactly. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I was just going to add on. Exactly. And this goes to probably one of the biggest problems in sales. I know that you talk about this type of stuff all the time, which is you got to have a full pipeline. I mean, you can't be to use the mining analogy, you can't just be a miner who goes like, all right, I found this little hill. I'm going to work on this little hill. I mean, you want to mine for gold, you've got to go through a lot of dirt. That means putting a ton of people into your pipeline and failing fast. Calling people and failing fast and getting a lot of those no's fast and sorting through and sifting through what is the quote dirt, and I'm not talking about prospects as dirt, but who's not interested, who's kind of interested, who's very interested, and getting those people moved through the pipeline. I mean, that's fundamental sales. But I think when you go for yes, what you do is you cherry pick. You go like, I think this person, and it's like, are you kidding? No. You got to get a ton of people into that funnel to sift through that.
So the idea of going through, let's go to conditioning, right? Tell the pike story. Do you remember the pike story? This is a great story.
You're asking me all these questions and no one ever asked me. It's hysterical.
I do my fucking homework. I do my fucking homework.
You do. Okay, so the pike story is with some researchers up in Canada. We're looking at behavior of this particular fish, and what they did was they had the pike put in a fishbowl along with his favorite food, which was minnows, and they had a glass partition, and the pike would see the minnows swimming around his favorite food and keep hitting his nose against the window, unable to get at these minnows. Eventually, once they figured he was beaten down and he was exhausted, they removed the partition out. The pike is literally now swimming in the same tank with the minnows and is not going after them. Literally beat down. It's the same story, you guys, as the elephant who gets trained, the poor little elephant who has the rope around his leg, who could easily pull the stake out, who just gets trained that that's their conditioning. And I think a lot of people have that way in life and success, right, in business.
So what you're saying is, if we're not careful, we allow ourselves to be conditioned to see things for what they are not.
Right. See things as no as the end. See things as not working out. Because if you don't go for no, then you never see that fourth no turn into the yes, or that seventh contact turn into a yes. Again, we talk about this. I call it self-fulfilling prophecy, or the cycle that continues. It's only when you go forward and you try again and again and again, and then you get rewarded, that you see that, wow, sticking around and being persistent really does pay off. But you got to stay in it long enough for that persistence to pay off.
All right, so you brought up reward. Let's go there. I love this. So this is for sales leaders now, right? This is for CEOs. This is for vice president of sales. This is for sales managers. In your book, you advocate rewarding people for failing.
Yes.
Tell me what you mean by that, and tell anybody who's in a position to make that happen how they could reward for failing.
Right. Well, it is a tricky thing because you do require some honesty on the part of your sales team, on the part of your sales force. But fundamentally, it's to not just reward people for their yeses, it's to reward people for their nos. And the perfect example is, you've got a big office and somebody makes a call, one call, they get a yes. Everybody's like, oh, all right, you got a yes. You got another salesperson, they make 25 calls. They got 25 no's, or I don't know, or whatever, and nobody says a word. Like, all right, it's the activity that leaders really need to focus on. It's the behaviors that will eventually lead. Those 25 no's will eventually, statistically, if you follow up with them enough, and they're reasonably qualified, half of them could turn into yeses. But we don't reward those people. And so leaders need to reward the activity, which is rewarding the no's and celebrating them. And we've had a lot of companies do that very successfully, where they have contests and things, and they reward people for the no's that they get. And that same person oftentimes is the sales leader, because their activity is the highest.
Yeah, I saw that in your book. I thought that was interesting. What you guys said was, over time, the person who won the go for no reward almost always won the top producer reward.
Exactly. And I love that you brought this up, Keenan, because this is a huge issue for sales leaders. You say it yourself. I mean, I think I saw the tagline, you talk about the elephant in the room. You like to talk about the elephants in the room, right? I mean, go finder of the elephant in the room, yes. Of the elephant, yeah. This issue is an elephant. And it's like, hey, why are our sales not high enough? Why are we all slumping? Nobody in the meeting is raising their hand going, I know, I hate no, I'm afraid of failure, pick me. Everybody sits there and goes like, I don't know, nobody's calling me back, the market's down, blah, 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 right? Nobody's talking about this issue. So leaders can say, hey, let's talk about this. Let's change things up. Let's try something different, and then reward the behaviors, not just the results. Then they can make massive change.
Okay, so give me a tip. Give me a sales leader sitting here listening. They're bought into this idea. Hey, that's a good point. That Andrea is a smart chick. I want to do this. How can they implement a reward for failure, and what should it look like?
It can look like anything they want to look like. It just has to be trackable, and there has to be a fair amount of honesty involved. I mean, the reality is that people have asked us, how do I do this? And a lot of sales teams are spread all over the country. Well, you have to trust that people are telling you the right numbers. In other words, hey, I made 10 calls, 2 were yeses, 8 were nos, and give a reward for the person who made the greatest number of calls, who got the most no's, had the most conversations. It doesn't, motivation, it doesn't have to be a huge reward. The recognition sometimes is almost enough.
Okay, I like that. I think we'll try something like that here. I think there's some things we can do around here. Hakik.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Andrea. Here's the $1 million question. And if it's not good, I'm going to ask it again. And if it's still not good, I'm going to ask it again. And you are not getting off the responsibility. damn good answer. Okay?
Okay.
So, I am a huge fan of learning. I'm giving you and your co-author mad props for the book. I thought it was great. You did a really good job of laying out the value of it. I've been following you for a long time on Twitter, and I, generally speaking, got the concept. But your book really drove it home and gave me much more context for the power of it. So, but at the same token, I'm sort of old school in the guy that I don't want to know that people have actually lived it, experienced it, etc. I don't need talking heads, right? They've raped this shit. They've never actually gone out there, experienced, or never taken their, eaten their own dog food or whatever. So, what I want is you to share an example of how you used your own advice, this go for no, to promote your career or make something big happen.
Okay. Oh, to make something big happen.
For you in your life, any way you want to go.
Probably, I think the thing I'm most proud of, and it was the start of our business, is we went to a conference. It was American Society for Training and Development. It was a networking event. This was the moment. This was the moment to network with the vice presidents of training who had the potential of hiring us to come speak. I saw this woman across the room, and at the moment I saw her, I literally had two voices going in my head. One was like, "Oh my God, she is your ideal client. You have to go talk to her." And simultaneously, I had the voice saying, "Oh my God, who are you kidding? You cannot go over there and have a conversation." We had just started our business. I bought a fax machine. I thought I was in business. I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I walked up to this woman, Vice President JCPenney. I handed her a copy of our self-published crappy little book, and I said, "My name's Andrea Waltz. I'm a speaker trainer for the retail industry." I handed her the book. She flipped through it, and she said, "Wow, this looks really interesting." She said, "Call me on Monday, and I think we can work together." And she said, "Oh, hey, do you do distance learning?" And I said, "Oh, absolutely, we do distance learning, for sure." And she goes, "Okay, great." I find Richard 5 minutes later, and I said, "Oh my God, you're not going to believe I talked to this woman." And I tell him the whole story, and I go, "She asked us if we do distance learning," and he goes, "What's distance learning?" And I said, "I have no idea, but we better find out."
All right, so good. So good. I love that story. But as promised, that's a yes.
Oh.
That's a yes.
Oh, okay. I thought you wanted
that is a yes.
Story. Okay.
Well, my assumption is a successful story is you got a shitload of no's.
Yeah.
And you got a lot of no's, but you held true to your thesis, right? And something happened, or some things happened. It doesn't have to be one thing, but come on, give me another one where you lived true to your own thesis.
My God, Keenan, I hear no every day. I've been hung up on, but okay, let me think of one because I want to think of a good one where I've held true to my thesis. When we were doing our Go for No movie, when we were trying to get people to talk about these exact topics, and we drove around the country 12,000 miles, and we interviewed people on their attitudes about failure and rejection, we were approaching big people. This is what we call a big no. And I was I was probably most disappointed, but also proud that I approached a guy named Dan Kennedy. He's a huge marketing guru, and he basically said, I pretty much teach people to do exactly the opposite of what you're teaching. I teach people to market very specifically, use the exact perfect phrases so that they get yes every time. The goal is not to get no's. But congratulations, and I like what you're doing. So I was simultaneously disappointed, a little embarrassed, a little humiliated, but I felt good that I at least went for the no, because he would have been a great coup in our movie.
And was he in your movie?
Nope. Nope.
How many more times did you call him?
Turn me down. Oh, that was it. Believe me, I took that no as a no never. That was it. I listen, if somebody gave me a bad excuse, I would happily continue calling them. But here's the secret about Go for No. If the no is a good no, meaning there's bad yeses, good yeses, bad no's, good no's, right? If this is a good no, then don't waste your time. Move on and and go to the next person who could tell you no or could tell you yes. So the idea is you have to know when to go for no, and that is a very important point.
Interesting. You have to know no.
You have to know when, yeah, you have to know. And sometimes you don't know where that line is. If the door is open, then you go for it. If the door is closed, then save your time and move on to someone else. That is the key to the disqualification process. Because if somebody is unable to do for you what you want or unable to buy or they don't have the need, then better to just go, great, and move on.
Interesting. All right, so how does someone know, last question, how does someone know a good one from a bad one?
A good no versus a bad yes. If you know that this person has a interest, a wantingness, a willingness, a desire for what you have, and you ask the final question, which is fundamentally something like, do you mind if I stay in touch with you? Do you mind if I check back with you in the future? Then that is a good no, and you should stick with it. Sometimes in sales, because customers also don't like to say no, you will get a bad yes, and we've all gotten bad yeses, and we know what they're like. We feel them in our gut. It's almost hard to describe, and we say to ourselves, this deal's going to fall apart. So I would encourage people to, if somebody's like, it feels that it's a bad yes, keep digging and keep working, and if it turns out to be a no, you are better off.
Okay. All right. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, well, Andrea, this was awesome. Folks, if you have not picked up a copy of Go for No, you're selling yourself short. I can't think of a more impactful 80 or 90 pages. Mine's on a Kindle, so I'm guessing 80 or 90 pages. I can't think of more impactful 80 or 90 pages when it comes to improving sales with very clear, unwatered down, specific approaches and methodologies for getting it done. So people go check it out. It's a must. It's a must. And I can't see how it hurts, right? I think so much can be gained from this, both from a executional standpoint, from a sales growth standpoint, but for me, more importantly, the reason I'm a finder of an elephant in the room, I just had this uncanny knack of getting to the true problems versus the symptoms. And my take on your book is the true problem for going for no is not executional, it's not contextual, it's personal, it's psychological. We are conditioned, like you said, to want to protect ourselves and not feel the discomfort of our own shortcomings. Leveraging Dunning's piece, we overthink who we are because we have this inflated sense of self half the time. We lack the knowledge to know who we are, and we don't like the feeling of realizing we're not as good as we think we are. We may not be as good looking, we may not be as fast, we may not be as talented, we may not be, so we try to protect that. And as long as you try to protect that, not only is it going to affect you in accepting no's, but it's going to affect you in all aspects of your life. So this is powerful to me because it really gets to the core of success, and that starts with the individual and one's sense of self, one's confidence, one's awareness of their competencies and incompetencies. And I'm going to use this, folks. This is my big takeaway outside of all the great stuff I learned, is failure is the boundary of our competencies. If you are not failing, you are not pushing the boundaries of your competencies, and therefore you're playing small ball. So that was awesome, 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 and this was fantastic. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, Kiki, what do we got?
Oh. So much fun.
My pleasure. All right, Kiki, what do we got? We got a crazy cut it out coming up, don't we?
Yes, we sure do. What we're going to talk about today is stop stealing content. People put up a lot of work into there, and Keenan's going to rant away here.
Say that again. Say it one more time with the same passion you just said it. What are we going to talk about today, Kiki?
Stop stealing content. I use my point finger.
Yes! Yes! And listen, I'm sure I'm walking into a freaking pile of dog shit by taking this on this way, but let me break it down for you, okay? We're talking about content marketing, and I blogged about this, and I knew better. The minute I blogged about it, I got all these clowns, and I'm calling every one of you did a clown, go into my website, and they started downloading stuff with fake email addresses and fake names. Listen, this world of content marketing, when someone creates a piece of content, an ebook, an infographic, whatever, and they ask you, no, let me phrase this, I'm going to go a step further, they offer it to you in exchange for a little bit of information, That, peeps, is an offer, okay? That is a transaction. And if you took business law, I'm assuming most of you who lie never did, because if you did, you would be such a clown, is when you have a transaction, you have consideration. In consideration of this, I will give you this. And it doesn't have to be written down. It can be verbal. And so when I put a piece of content out, or Andrea puts a piece of content out and says, I'm going to give you my knowledge, I'm going to give you my expertise, I'm going to give you something in exchange for your email address, in exchange for your name, in exchange for your number, you damn well have an obligation to fucking give it to me. And if you don't want to give it to me, don't take my content, because you're a crook, you're a thief, and you're stealing. I don't know why you think that you just get to take it. It says right there, for your name, you can have this. We didn't put that up there for just because we felt good about it. You don't get to walk into Walmart and say, hey, I like these cookies, but I think $5 is a little high. I think I'll pay $3. You know what? I think I'll pay nothing. I'll just give them a coupon to my store. You don't get to decide. You take it or you leave it. So, folks, if you're one of those clowns who gives a fake email address, who gives a fake name, a fake phone number when you download a piece of content, embrace this. You're being a thief. And for those of you who didn't really see it that way, if you're truly self-aware, you'll change it. Wow, that's right, Keenan's right, I shouldn't do that, and you'll stop. For those who know you're doing it, take a good hard look at the type of person you are, because you're stealing from people who put a lot of hard work into this stuff, and they offer it to you to help you out, and you're preferably giving them a thumb and saying, take this, I don't care about your hard work, it's all about me, and I'm going to steal right from you. So with that, people, is probably the most powerful rant I've thought in a long time. Let it sit in, because you know I'm right. If you want to argue with me, hit me up on Sales Joke, hit me up on email, call me personally, send me an email to Keenan at Sales Guy, and tell me I'm wrong, and I'll go toe-to-toe with you. So here's the deal. Cut it out. If you're stealing content, cut it out. Ooh, I needed to get that out. I needed to get that out. Goodness gracious. Andrea, do you have content? Do people do that to you?
I imagine that they do, because I sent a newsletter out today and I had 51 bounced emails, so it's got to be happening.
Would you care to share your thoughts on that? Am I wrong in any way to Sunday on that?
No, you're not wrong at all. And really what people can do is, if they want to put their name and email address in, and then get your content, and then they don't value it anymore, unsubscribe. Just unsubscribe. It's just that easy.
Holla! Oh, see, Andrea said it so sweetly. I could try that approach. It's just not me. It's just not me. So here, guys, in the sweet, passionate way that Andrea just did it, please stop downloading content with fake names and email addresses. If you want the content, please put in your real name, and then unsubscribe if you don't like further engagement. That would be very nice. So cut it out, please. Stop. I don't know, did that sound good? I don't think I pulled it off very well.
It's inauthentic, Keenan. We can see right through it.
Maybe, Andrea, as I get, if and when I get bigger in the world, maybe I'll hire you to be my mouthpiece so that I don't offend so many people.
Well, I think between the two of us, there's probably that perfect happy medium.
That perfect balance, you know.
Yes.
You know, it's funny. I was having a conversation the other day with someone about this very idea of offending people and in my personality and how some people offend. And some people offend because they're offensive, right? And that's on the offensive person. Other people offend because they make people uncomfortable with the truth. Mm-hmm. And that isn't about the person saying, it's about the people, it's about the receptors of the information. And I had a smart person tell me, and a couple people who worked for me tell me this, they said, Keenan, you're not hard to work with if you are the type of person who is self-aware and self-reflective. But if you're a person who isn't, you're a very hard person to work for because you make people own their shit. And people don't like that. So there's two types of offensive, and I'm okay being in the second camp, like the fire in the elephant room. If I say something that is true, and it has something with your behavior, and that offends you, I'm sorry, but that's not my fault. That's not on me, that's on you. And for me to stop only allows the problem to persist. So for what it's worth, maybe there's a show on that someday, huh? Self-awareness. Oh yeah, we'll do David Dunning. He's going to be good for that. Mm-hmm. All right, so any parting thoughts, Miss Andrea, before we jet?
Parting thoughts. I would just say go for no in your business, go for no in sales, and go for no in life. Go try it anywhere and everywhere. If you practice asking, interesting things can happen. So just try it. If there's an opportunity to ask and get a no, go for it.
I love that. I love that. I want to tack on to that in a much more empathetic way. For those of you who have a hard time accepting this idea of going for no, ask yourself why. What is it is scaring you? What is it about you that you don't believe in yourself? What is it about you you're afraid to learn? What is it about you that you're afraid others will see? And get comfortable with that. Explore that and figure out what you can do to build a foundation to be more comfortable in who you are, be more comfortable in what you bring to the table, be more comfortable in your value. Because if going for no scares you at that psychological level, there's something going on in how you see yourself and how you embrace yourself, and you deserve to have the confidence in knowing you're damn good. So figure that out, go fix it, and come back and knock it out. Because no one should move through careers, whether it's sales or operations or IT, with a sense of hidden lack of confidence, a low self-esteem, and hiding it. Get it on the table, embrace it, and build it up. You're going to knock it through the fence. Knock it out. All right, that was awesome. Yes, jump in. Do we have any questions, Keek?
So unfortunately not, but I did want to point out something that I learned through Andrea's Periscope is she's going for a big no these days. Or she's going, you're really thinking outside the box. You and your husband are coming out with a sci-fi novel series?
Yes, we're writing a paranormal suspense series.
So,
yes, lots of no's.
Roll to the wall. You go, girl.
Wow. Take a left turn. Cruise down the go for no road. Left turn.
That's right. That's right. Well, luckily, Richard is writing that, and I get to talk about Go for No, my passion.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. I love it. So, all the props in the world to Andrea. Thank you very much. Next, let me see, episode 14 coming up. This is going to be a unique episode, too. For those of you, particularly in sales automation, those who are developing new products and services, you don't want to miss this one. We are bringing in Seth Levine, the principal at Foundry Group, one of Brad Feld's partners in the venture capital firm Foundry Group. You do not want to miss this. And we're going to talk about how sales and startups work and what he thinks startups should do to drive revenue. So that's going to be a badass one. I'm super excited. Anything else, Kiki? Anything else I'm missing?
That is it. We will. Thank you so much, Andrea. It was a really great conversation, and I look forward to seeing you out in the interwebs more.
Absolutely. Yeah, we could have talked all day, you guys.
I know. It was good.
Amen to that. We could have. That was awesome. Awesome. All right, peeps. Until next time. Hey, subscribe. Hit down there in the YouTube thing. Subscribe. You deserve to get this every day. So other than that, until next time, people. Kiki, thank you very much. Andrea, it was a pleasure. I think this is one of our most informative and most impactful. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And so until next time, peace. I'm out.
So just chill till the next episode.